Before the world fully wakes up this morning, before the noise of responsibilities begins to fill your mind, pause for a moment and take a deep breath. There is something powerful about the early hours of the day, something sacred about the quiet moments when your heart can reflect on where your help truly comes from. Many people wake up already feeling the weight of life pressing on their shoulders. Bills, worries, responsibilities, fears about the future. These thoughts begin to crowd the mind before the day even begins. But Psalm 121 opens with a question that changes everything when we truly understand it. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? This is not just a poetic line. It is a deep cry from the human heart. It is the moment when a person stops looking inward for strength and begins looking upward for help. The hills represented something higher, something beyond human limitations. When life becomes overwhelming, the natural tendency is to look around at circumstances and feel defeated. But the psalm teaches us to lift our eyes higher than our problems. It teaches us to lift our focus beyond what we see in front of us. Because when we lift our eyes toward God, perspective begins to change. Suddenly, the problems that once seemed impossible begin to look smaller. Suddenly, the fear that once controlled your thoughts begins to lose its power. When you lift your eyes to God, you begin to remember that your life is not held together by your own strength alone. Every person at some point in life asks the same silent question: where will my help come from? Some people look to money for their security. Others look to relationships, to power, to influence, or to their own intelligence. Yet time proves again and again that human solutions are fragile. Wealth can disappear overnight. Opportunities can vanish without warning. Even the strongest person eventually reaches a moment when their own strength is not enough. Psalm 121 reveals a truth that generations have held on to in times of crisis and uncertainty. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Think about the magnitude of that statement. The one who created the universe is the source of your help. The same God who designed the oceans, who carved the mountains, who placed every star in its place in the night sky, is the one who watches over your life. When you begin to grasp that reality, fear begins to lose its grip, because the power behind your help is not limited by human weakness. God is not surprised by the challenges you face today. Nothing about your situation catches him off guard. While we often struggle to understand what tomorrow holds, God already sees the entire path ahead. The creator of heaven and earth is not distant or uninvolved. He is present, aware, and attentive to every detail of your life. Many people live each day feeling like they must carry everything alone. The pressures of life convince them that if they do not hold everything together themselves, everything will fall apart. That kind of thinking leads to exhaustion, anxiety, and constant stress. But the message of Psalm 121 gently invites us to release that burden. It reminds us that help is not something we must manufacture through our own effort. Help comes from God. That truth changes the way you face the day. Instead of waking up with fear about what might happen, you can begin the morning with confidence that God is already ahead of you. Instead of allowing anxiety to dictate your decisions, you can move forward knowing that divine help is available in every moment. God does not abandon his people to navigate life blindly. His watchful presence surrounds those who trust him. Even when circumstances seem confusing or overwhelming, God remains steady and faithful. He understands every struggle you are facing, even the ones you have never spoken aloud. The quiet worries that fill your thoughts late at night are not hidden from him. The challenges that seem impossible in your own strength are not beyond his power. When Psalm 121 points us to God as our helper, it is reminding us that we are not dependent on fragile human strength. We are supported by the strength of the Creator himself. Consider how often people search for peace in the wrong places. They fill their schedules, chase achievements, and accumulate possessions, hoping that these things will quiet the restlessness inside their hearts. Yet the more they chase these temporary solutions, the more exhausted they become. The human soul was never designed to find ultimate security in temporary things. True peace begins when a person realizes that their life is held in the hands of God. When the psalmist lifted his eyes to the hills, he was making a deliberate choice. He was choosing to shift his focus away from fear and toward faith. That same choice is available to you this morning. You can choose to focus on everything that could go wrong, or you can choose to focus on the God who holds everything together. The difference between those two perspectives is life-changing. When fear dominates your thinking, every obstacle appears larger than it really is. Every challenge feels like a threat to your future. But when faith becomes your focus, obstacles become opportunities for God to demonstrate his faithfulness. Instead of asking, "How will I survive this?" you begin asking, "What is God about to do in this situation?" The shift from fear to faith does not eliminate every challenge, but it transforms how you face them. There is also a powerful reminder in Psalm 121 about God's constant attention. Unlike human protectors who grow tired, distracted, or overwhelmed, God never loses awareness of what is happening in your life. Every detail matters to him. Every step you take is seen by him. That truth brings comfort in moments when life feels uncertain. Many people worry about the future because they feel like they are walking into the unknown without guidance. But the God who created the universe already sees every moment that lies ahead of you. The path that seems unclear to you is completely visible to him. He understands every intersection, every delay, every opportunity, and every challenge that awaits. When you realize that God is watching over your life with perfect awareness, it becomes easier to trust him, even when you cannot see the full picture. Faith grows when we remember that God's perspective is infinitely greater than our own. What appears confusing from our limited viewpoint is perfectly clear from his eternal perspective. This understanding allows you to move forward without being paralyzed by uncertainty. Another powerful aspect of this psalm is the personal nature of God's help. The psalmist does not speak about God as a distant force or an abstract concept. He speaks about God as a personal helper. This means that God's involvement in your life is not general or impersonal. It is specific and intentional. He knows your name, your fears, your dreams, and your struggles. The same God who governs the vast universe is intimately aware of the details of your life. That prayer, alone, has the power to transform how you see yourself. Many people struggle with feelings of insignificance. They believe their life is too small to matter in the grand scheme of things. But Psalm 121 reveals something extraordinary. The Creator of heaven and earth cares deeply about your life. Your struggles matter to Him. Your prayers matter to Him. Your journey matters to Him. Your journey matters to Him. This means that when you lift your eyes to God, you are not calling out into emptiness. You are reaching toward a loving Creator who is already paying attention. His help is not distant or delayed. His presence is near and active. When you begin your day with this understanding, the entire atmosphere of your life changes. Problems may still exist. Responsibilities will still require your attention, and challenges will still appear along the path ahead. But the difference is that you no longer face those things alone. There is a quiet strength that grows within a person who knows their help comes from God. It is not loud or boastful strength. It is a steady confidence that remains even in difficult moments. This kind of confidence does not come from pretending problems do not exist. It comes from knowing that the God who created everything is actively involved in your life. When others panic during uncertain moments, you can remain calm because you know who is guiding your steps. When others feel overwhelmed by circumstances, you can remain steady because you know who is watching over your life. Faith does not remove every storm, but it anchors the heart so that storms cannot destroy your peace. There are moments in life when a person feels completely surrounded by uncertainty. You may wake up in the morning and feel a quiet weight pressing on your heart, a feeling that something is missing, something is uncertain, something is beyond your control. In those moments, the mind begins searching for security. People often search for safety in things they can see, touch, or control. They build plans, gather resources, and try to protect themselves from the unknown future. Yet deep inside, every person knows that human plans can only go so far. There are situations no amount of preparation can prevent. There are storms that arrive without warning. This is where the message of Psalm 121 becomes incredibly powerful. The psalmist makes a declaration that shifts the focus away from fragile human solutions and towards something far greater. He says, "My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth." These words are not just poetic language meant to sound comforting. They are a bold statement about the true source of strength and security in life. When the psalmist says his help comes from the Lord, he is recognizing that the ultimate support for his life comes from the one who created everything. That understanding begins to transform how a person approaches every challenge they face. Think for a moment about what it means that God is the maker of heaven and earth. This phrase carries incredible significance. It means that the one who helps you is the same one who spoke the universe into existence. The stars that fill the night sky did not appear by accident. The oceans that stretch across the planet were designed by His wisdom. The mountains that rise from the earth stand as reminders of his power and creativity. When the psalmist refers to God as the maker of heaven and earth, he is reminding himself that the source of his help is unlimited in power. Human strength has limits. Human knowledge has limits. Human resources have limits. But the creator of the universe is not limited by anything. Nothing in your life is too difficult for him to handle. No problem you face is too complicated for his wisdom. No situation is beyond his reach. When a person truly understands that their help comes from the Creator himself, it changes the way they see every challenge in front of them. Many people live with the quiet fear that they are alone in their struggles. They may be surrounded by people and still feel isolated inside. The pressures of life can make a person feel like they must carry every responsibility on their own shoulders. Over time, that pressure becomes exhausting. Anxiety grows, sleep becomes restless, and the future begins to look uncertain. But Psalm 121 offers a powerful reminder that no one who trusts in God is ever truly alone. The Creator of heaven and earth is not distant from the lives of those who call upon him. He is aware of every step they take and every burden they carry. When you realize that the God who created everything is also the one who offers help in your daily life, it brings a new sense of peace. The struggles may still exist, but they no longer feel impossible. The future may still contain unknowns, but it no longer feels terrifying, because the one guiding your path understands the entire journey from beginning to end. There is also a deep sense of humility that comes from recognizing God as the maker of heaven and earth. It reminds us that life is not ultimately controlled by human strength or human wisdom. People often believe that success or security comes entirely from their own effort. They push themselves to achieve more, to control more, to secure more. But life has a way of reminding us that control is often an illusion. Circumstances can change quickly. Health can shift unexpectedly. Opportunities can disappear without warning. When those moments arrive, a person begins to understand how fragile human control really is. Psalm 121 redirects the heart away from that fragile foundation and points it towards something far more secure. Instead of placing ultimate trust in human strength, it encourages us to trust in the Creator who holds the universe together. That shift in perspective brings both humility and peace. Humility because we recognize our limitations, and peace because we know our lives are supported by a power far greater than our own. When the psalmist declares that his help comes from the Lord, he is also making a personal confession of faith. This is not a distant observation about God's power. It is a personal declaration of trust. He is saying that in the middle of uncertainty, he chooses to rely on God rather than on fear. That choice is something every person must make in their own life. Fear will always try to dominate the mind. Worry will always attempt to control our thoughts. But faith invites us to look beyond those emotions and remember who God truly is. Faith is not pretending that problems do not exist. It is recognizing that God is greater than those problems. When you wake up in the morning and remember that your help comes from the Lord, it changes the entire tone of your day. Instead of beginning with anxiety, you begin with trust. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by responsibilities, you remember that God is walking with you through every moment. There is something deeply comforting about knowing that the Creator of heaven and earth is not overwhelmed by the problems that trouble us. Humans often feel overwhelmed because we can only see a small portion of the situation in front of us. Our perspective is limited by time, experience, and knowledge. But God sees everything clearly. He understands the past, the present, and the future all at once. What appears confusing to us is perfectly clear to Him. When Psalm 121 points us toward God as our helper, it is reminding us that the one guiding our lives sees the entire path ahead. This means that even when we feel uncertain about what tomorrow holds, God is already aware of every moment that lies ahead. His guidance is not based on guesswork or uncertainty. It is based on complete knowledge of everything that will happen. That reality gives believers a powerful reason to trust Him, even when the road ahead seems unclear. Another important truth in this psalm is that God's help is not limited to extraordinary moments of crisis. Sometimes people think of God only when life becomes extremely difficult. They pray during emergencies and forget Him during ordinary days. But the message of Psalm 121 suggests something much deeper. God's help is present in both the dramatic moments and He quiet moments of life. He is involved not only in the major turning points of your story, but also in the small details that shape each day. The Creator who formed the stars also pays attention to the individual lives of His people. This means that the concerns you carry in your heart are not too small for Him to notice. The decisions you face, the fears you struggle with, and the hopes you hold inside all matter to Him. When you understand this truth, prayer becomes more natural and sincere. You are not speaking to a distant force. You are speaking to the Creator who already knows and cares about every detail of your life. There is also a sense of stability that comes from trusting in the Creator rather than in temporary things. The world around us is constantly changing. Trends shift, cultures evolve, and circumstances move in unpredictable ways. What seems secure today may disappear tomorrow. But the Creator of heaven and earth does not change. His power does not fade with time. His wisdom does not grow outdated. His presence does not disappear when life becomes difficult. When the psalmist says his help comes from the Lord, he is anchoring his hope in something eternal. This kind of stability becomes incredibly valuable during uncertain seasons of life. When everything around you feels unstable, the unchanging nature of God becomes a source of strength. You realize that even if circumstances shift, God remains the same. His promises remain reliable, and His presence remains constant. This truth also invites a deeper sense of gratitude within the human heart. When you realize that the Creator of heaven and earth has chosen to be involved in your life, it changes the way you view each day. Life is no longer just a series of random events. It becomes a journey guided by divine care and purpose. Every morning becomes an opportunity to trust God more deeply. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to see His faithfulness in action. Gratitude begins to replace fear because you recognize how much God is already doing behind the scenes. The help that comes from the Lord is not always visible immediately, but it is always present. Sometimes it appears as unexpected strength during a difficult moment. Sometimes it appears as wisdom when you need to make an important decision. Sometimes it appears as peace that fills your heart even when circumstances remain uncertain. These quiet forms of help often go unnoticed, but they are powerful reminders that God is actively involved in the lives of those who trust Him. There is something deeply comforting about knowing that God never stops watching over His people. Human beings grow tired, distracted, and sometimes unaware of what is happening around them. Even the most devoted friend or family member cannot stay alert every moment of every day. There are times when people promise to watch over something important, but eventually sleep takes over, attention fades, or circumstances pull them away. Psalm 121 presents a powerful contrast to that human limitation. It declares that the one who watches over you never slumbers and never sleeps. This statement reveals a truth that reaches far beyond ordinary protection. It means that God's awareness of your life is constant and unbroken. There is not a single moment when His attention drifts away. While the world moves through cycles of day and night, God remains fully aware of every detail unfolding in your life. When darkness covers the earth and the world grows quiet, His watchful presence continues without interruption. The psalmist reminds us that divine protection is not temporary or occasion. It is continuous, faithful, and unwavering in every moment. Think about how often people worry about things that might happen when they are not paying attention. Parents check the doors at night to make sure their children are safe. People double-check alarms, locks, and security systems before they go to sleep. These actions come from a natural desire to protect what matters most. Yet even the most careful person cannot remain alert forever. Eventually, fatigue takes over and rest becomes necessary. But the promise found in Psalm 121 is that God does not share that human limitation. The one who watches over your life does not grow tired. He does not need to close His eyes for rest. He does not become distracted by other concerns. His attention remains fixed on the lives of those who trust Him. When you lay down to sleep at night, you can rest knowing that God is still awake. When the world around you is silent and still, His awareness remains active. This understanding creates a deep sense of security in the heart of a believer. It reminds us that protection does not depend solely on our own alertness or strength. Many of the fears people carry come from the feeling that something bad might happen when they are not prepared. The mind begins to imagine situations that are beyond control. What if something goes wrong while I am unaware? What if danger appears when I cannot defend myself? These thoughts often grow stronger during the quiet hours of the night when the mind has space to wander. Psalm 121 speaks directly to that kind of fear by reminding us that God's watchfulness never fades. There is never a moment when He is unaware of what is happening in your life. The events that surprise you never surprise Him. The challenges that appear suddenly in your path are already known to Him. This truth does not mean that life will always be free from difficulty. Challenges are part of the human journey, but it does mean that no difficulty ever arrives without God's awareness. Nothing enters your life without passing through. His knowledge and understanding, that reality changes how you face uncertain moments. There is also a powerful sense of closeness in the idea that God is always watching over His people. Sometimes people imagine God as distant or removed from everyday life, as if He only observes from far away. But the language of Psalm 121 suggests something much more personal. Watching over someone implies care, attention, and commitment. It is the same kind of watchfulness a loving parent shows toward a child. The parent pays attention, not because they are forced to, but because love naturally produces that kind of awareness. In the same way, God's watchfulness is an expression of His care for His people. He does not observe your life with indifference. He watches with compassion and understanding. He sees the quiet struggles you face, the questions that fill your mind, and the burdens that weigh on your heart. Even the emotions you hide from others are not hidden from Him. His watchful presence surrounds you in ways that are often invisible but deeply real. When a person truly begins to understand that God never sleeps, it changes how they experience both day and night. During the daytime, when responsibilities and challenges demand attention, there is comfort in knowing that God is guiding each step. When evening arrives and the body grows tired, there is peace in knowing that God remains alert even while we rest. The rhythm of human life includes both activity and rest, strength and weakness. But God's presence does not fluctuate with those rhythms. His awareness is steady and constant. While people move through cycles of energy and exhaustion, God remains fully attentive. This constant awareness provides a foundation of security that no human system could ever offer. Locks, alarms, and safeguards may offer some level of protection, but they are never perfect. God's watchfulness, however, is complete and unfailing. His ability to see and understand every moment of your life is beyond human comprehension. Another powerful truth connected to God's watchfulness is that His protection is not passive. He is not simply observing events from a distance. The Scriptures describe Him as actively guarding and guiding those who trust Him. His awareness leads to action. When danger approaches, He is able to intervene in ways that we may not always recognize immediately. Sometimes His protection appears through circumstances that shift unexpectedly. Sometimes it appears through wisdom that guides you away from harmful choices. Sometimes it appears through strength that rises within you during difficult moments. The ways God protects His people are often subtle but powerful. Many times we only recognize His protection when we look back and realize how certain situations could have ended very differently. The psalmist's confidence comes from knowing that God is not only aware of our lives, but actively involved in guarding them. There are also moments when people feel forgotten or overlooked. Life can become busy and complicated, and it may seem like the struggles we face are invisible to everyone around us. During those moments, loneliness can begin to grow in the heart. But the message of Psalm 1021 offers reassurance that no life is overlooked by God. His watchful attention extends to every individual who calls upon Him. You are not just another face in a crowd from His perspective. Your story matters to Him. Your struggles are not insignificant in His eyes. The quiet prayers you whisper are heard. The tears you shed in private are seen. Even when no one else understands what you are going through, God is fully aware of every detail. His watchfulness means that your life is never hidden from His care. That truth brings comfort during moments when the world feels distant or indifferent. The idea that God never sleeps also reminds us that His faithfulness never pauses. Human promises sometimes weaken over time. People may begin with sincere intentions, but eventually lose focus or become distracted. Circumstances change, priorities shift, and commitments fade, but God's faithfulness does not follow that pattern. His promises remain steady regardless of changing circumstances. When He commits to watch over His people, that commitment does not expire. It does not weaken with time. It does not fade during difficult seasons. His watchfulness remains constant through every stage of life. Whether you are walking through a season of joy or a season of struggle, His attention remains the same. That consistency becomes a powerful source of strength for those who trust Him. It means that your security does not depend on temporary emotions or changing situations. As you move through each day, this truth invites a deeper level of trust. Knowing that God never sleeps allows you to release some of the worry. Hat often fills the human mind. You do not have to carry the burden of constant fear about what might happen next. The one who guards your life is always alert and aware. His presence surrounds your journey in ways that you may not always see, but can always trust. When the day begins, He is already present. When the evening arrives, He remains attentive. When the night grows quiet and the world rests, His watchful care continues without interruption. The Creator of heaven and earth remains fully aware of every moment unfolding in your life.